In this video, we're going to talk real estate terms and lingos. Welcome back to another episode of Gulf Coast Investing, where we talk about all things investing right here on the Gulf Coast. My name is Casey, and I would love if you would like this video and hit subscribe to this channel for more great content just like this. So in today's video, I kind of want to do a real estate terms and lingos 101 for beginners. So we have a lot of people that are new to this channel, and yeah, we talk about a lot of different things, businesses and relationships we hit on for Valentine's Day last month and things like that. But at the heart of it, a lot of what we want to look at and focus on is investing and investing on the Gulf Coast. And a lot of that starts with real estate investing. So for a lot of you newcomers, new timers, beginners in the real estate world and real estate investing world, wanted to talk about some terms and different lingos that you may be hearing when you're watching videos like this and other videos and as you begin your real estate journey. So the first one is a real estate agent. So you may have heard people that say my realtor or realtor, things like that with an A in there, but ask any realtor and they will say that is the proper way to pronounce it, a realtor, not a realtor. Again, getting into the details, but fun stuff there. So a real estate agent is somebody that is licensed to sell real estate. So by real estate law, unless it's your own personal property, you cannot help somebody buy their property, sell a property, or rent their property for a fee, collect any money unless they are a licensed agent. So that also goes the same with referrals for business and things like that. You cannot pay somebody for any real estate duty when it comes to buying, selling, renting, or referral for those unless you are a licensed agent. So again, a licensed agent has your best interest in mind. So it's called a fiduciary responsibility to you, the client, that when your client is using you to buy a home or to sell their home or to rent, that they have your best interest in mind. They're working on your behalf. So, of course, there gets into dual agency and things like that. We'll get into it in another video, but kind of a general thing. That's what an agent is. Somebody that's what they do. They represent a buyer, a seller, or a renter in a real estate transaction. So, the next word is a listing. So, what is a real estate listing? So, a listing is literally when a house is listed for sale on the MLS. So the MLS is a multiple listing service. It's what we pay dues to every year, so that when we're going to list a property, that's where all the details come from. So you may have seen things like Zillows and things like that, Red Door, Open Door, all those. Those are usually taking information from the MLS that an agent has put in about the house and put that out to the world to see. Again, and so that's a listing. So then when you have a buyer, when you're working with a buyer, we go onto the MLS and we can type in all the different criteria, search criteria that buyer wants, and see all the listings that pop up. So the next one is a mortgage. So if you are buying a house and you're not paying all cash, then you're most likely going to a mortgage lender and you are getting a mortgage for that property. So we've talked about in other videos, and we'll talk about in future videos, the different types of down payments you can put down. And we had a Chad with Movement Mortgage on a couple weeks ago talking about, hey, you can put 5%, 10%, 20% down, and you're going to have a mortgage. So that mortgage company is going to give you a loan for the rest of the money and all the things that go into there. So the next one is a pre-approval. So a pre-approval is where you go to the mortgage, your loan officer, and say, hey, I'm trying to buy a house for $400,000. They go, they type in all the numbers, $400,000, 10% down. They make sure you qualified, you have the $40,000 in your bank account, and they give you a letter. So when we go present an offer to the seller, for $400,000, we can have a letter that says, hey, this buyer is pre-approved for this loan. So in 30 days, they will be able to close on this loan based on the information that they've been given us. So the next one is an offer. So an offer is simply that. It's an offer where, it's about a 14-page document. Most of it is all written up by the real estate commission and lawyers and all that, at least in our area down here. You just fill in some of the blanks. What's the price, when you want to close, closing costs, down payments, things like that you fill in. and then your agent will submit that offer on your behalf to the listing agent, who will take that offer to his sellers, and they will look at it all and say, hey, do we want to take this offer? Do we want to counter this offer? Or do we just want to say, no, we don't want to do this deal and move on? So it is an offer until it is signed on by both parties. When both parties agree to everything, they do their scratch outs and all that, the final initial goes at the top. The buyer will submit their earnest money. So that's another term. So earnest money is money put down to hold that property. So in a lot of cases, it's anywhere from $1,000 to 1% of the purchase price. So in our $400,000 deal, it would be $4,000. That earnest money is saying, hey, if we get through the inspection, the appraisal, and all that, and it's the day of closing, and I just get cold feet and back out, that you're going to get to keep this money because that's my guarantee that I'm going to close this deal. Now, of course, if there's a bad inspection or appraisal or things like that, then the buyer normally will be able to get their earnest money back out. So obviously check with your agent on how much earnest money, how all that works before you put down. The good news is that earnest money does go towards your down payment and your purchase price at closing. So if you owed the 40 grand, you would have to bring 36 grand to closing. That 4 grand is already there holding. So that's as far as that goes. So once you get under contract, we always recommend you get a home inspection. So a home inspection is when you pay a home inspection company, a home inspector. He's going to come in for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. He's going to dissect every inch of that property. He's going to run all the faucets. He's going to check all the plugs. He's going to get up in the attic. He's going to check if there's a basement. He's going to check the footings. He's going to look at every aspect of the home and give you a list. And we've seen lists anywhere from 20 pages all the way to hundreds of pages with everything that is wrong with the property. So normally they're going to grade them. So you're going to have at the very top like red, like, hey, these are major health and safety items. You're going to want to address these. And then all the way down to, hey, these are some minor details that you're probably going to want to look at or have to fix eventually. So it could go to cracked foundation as a major, or windows that aren't against code, all the way down to, hey, this toilet, the handle's a little loose. So all those. So then you will look at those. You'll take those with your agent, and you'll say, hey, how much stuff do we want to ask for? What do we want to ask, that the seller fix? Sometimes the seller says, I'll fix it. Sometimes they're like, hey, we got to close this thing in 2 weeks. How about if I just give you some money off the purchase price? And that becomes a negotiation of what you want there. So the next one is appraisal. So when you're about getting ready to close, about 2 weeks before closing, the mortgage company is going to order an appraisal. And what that does is that protects the mortgage company from not lending too much money than what the property is worth. So if you're under contract for $400,000, but the property is only going to be worth $200,000, then you have a problem. The mortgage company, they're not going to loan you more money than what the property's worth. So they're there to help protect the mortgage company. They're going to do an evaluation. They don't do a full inspection like an inspector does, but they're going to look at certain things. They're going to look at other comps in the area. A comp is simply what other homes like yours have sold for in the area. And they're going to say, hey, based on comps in the area, based on the updates I'm seeing, your house is worth this much money. Now, obviously, you hope if it's worth $400,000 that, hey, I say it's worth $420,000. Well, then you already have equity in the property. Then again, if they come back and say, oh, it's only worth $390,000, that's where it becomes a negotiation again between the seller and the buyer. Hey, they're saying it's only worth $390,000. Either the buyer's going to come up with the $10,000 out of pocket, or the seller's going to have to drop the price. So that becomes kind of a negotiation that you can see once you get the appraisal back. So once all that's good, and kind of this whole time, you are in escrow. So escrow is a little bit different depending on what state you're in. I know California and New York have different escrow laws with lawyers and fees and things like that. For us, at least on the Alabama Gulf Coast, you are in escrow once that money, that earnest money is delivered either to the closing office, the listing agent, or the selling agent. It is put in an escrow account, and that's called opening escrow. So opening escrow is where that money is sitting. The back end, like down here, we have attorneys, and which are the title companies, and they're going to look up the title. They're going to make sure, hey, this seller is the actual seller of the property. There's no liens on the property. There's no litigation on the property. And all that happens while the money is sitting in escrow and escrow is opened up. Of course, at the closing table, which is the next one, that's where you come together and you sign all the final paperwork, and that's when it becomes official. So you officially will own the home once the money from the buyer goes into the closing office, and the closing office can pay the sellers what they're due. And then once everything is signed, the keys are handed over, then it goes from sitting in escrow, it goes to close. So you officially own the house once that happens at the closing table. So you'll hear any realtor that has been around, in the business for any amount of time, that it is not over till it's over. So we've had stories and heard all kind of stories of at the closing table, deals go sideways because of numbers, because of disagreements and all that. So the deal is not over until you are leaving with the keys, the seller has his money, the seller's loans are paid off, bank is paid off, everything's done, you get to take your cool fancy picture with the sign or whatever, then you are officially closed. So a couple last ones we wanted to talk about, we kind of hit on it earlier, but that's equity. So a lot of people that have bought within the past couple years and definitely before that are sitting on equity. So you may be hearing that, hey, I have a bunch of equity in my pocket or a bunch of equity in my house. That essentially means, in our example, hey, 2 years ago this person bought it for $400,000 and now it's worth $500,000. So they have $100,000 worth of equity in their house. So there's all types of things you can do with a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, and that's where a bank will say, hey, we'll lend you some of that money that's, out of that $100,000, we'll give you $50,000. So now it's a loan, so you have $50,000 out of your house. But then you have to start paying that loan whenever you draw money out of it. So again, be looking for that word equity when people are sitting on a lot of equity. Obviously, if a house is fully paid off, then they own it full, free and clear. And that always helps a little bit more because you're not having to worry about, banks getting to sign off on things and things like that as well. So last one I wanted to talk about is HOA. So a homeowners association. Again, you'll hear all kind of goods and bads from HOAs. You have some HOAs that are super strict, and when you move in the neighborhood, they hit you with a 15-page document of, hey, here's all the rules and regulations of what you can and can't do. Some literally have it down to what color you can paint your house. It has to be one of these 4 colors, but it can't be the color of your neighbor's house next door. Some have it to, hey, if you can put pine straw or bark, at your front driveway, around your mailbox, certain flowers you have to plant, your mailbox color, all those kind of things can be rules and regulations of an HOA, which sometimes it can be more retired people that they don't, that's their job, they feel like, is to go around and make sure the neighborhood's good. So sometimes it can be a little tricky, but again, the good part of being in an HOA is you don't have to be concerned about the next day your neighbor paints their house pink and they move 4 RVs into the front yard, and now you have a whole gang living next door of people that are just hanging out and cooking and loud all night and things like that. So there are pros and cons to an HOA. If you buy a condo, HOA is a whole different story. You're paying an HOA fee every month. Usually in a neighborhood, you're paying a one-time HOA fee for the year. But for a condo, you're paying an HOA fee every month. Again, they're taking care of the outside of the condo. They're taking care of most of the insurance. They're taking care of the property, the management of the property when it comes to landscaping and fixing lighting and the parking lots and the pools and all those kind of things. So make sure you figure out if you're moving into an HOA neighborhood and what those HOA fees are, and especially for a condo, because they could be anywhere from $200 to $800 a month. So that's going to kind of determine what your budget is depending on those HOA fees and also what they cover. So obviously with a house, you're having to pay for your own water, sewer, power bill, internet, cable, all those types of things. Whereas an HOA, a lot of times you're paying, you may pay $600 a month, but it's taking care of everything but your power. So that's the only expense that you have. So be on the look for those terms and those real estate lingos. If you have any other questions about ones, drop those in the comments, and we'll see y'all next week.